Free Rotation Nation. We are back here for another episode of the Free Rotation Podcast with your hosts for the day, me. It's me.
Hey, you.
I'm Chris.
Hi, Chris.
And we are joined with Angie.
Hello.
And Becca.
Happy 2023, guys. We're back.
This is our first episode of 2023.
It is. Hey, by the way, just so everybody knows, we've been doing this podcast for 6 years now. Our anniversary is this month.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's
6 months of awfulness. Horror.
I think I've been here for 2 now.
I think it's been
One
like
and a half.
2 and a half, 3 years now. Mm-hmm. We don't count time anymore. We just go. It is what it is.
Yeah, sometimes Becky still puts season 2, and I've just started putting season 3, and it's been 6 years.
It's season 2 because the 2 assholes that were here before that are gone.
The very long seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not talking about Moreland and Bobby, by the way.
No.
The clarification.
Anywho, so today we're going to start off with, we're going to talk about the one thing that throughout history has been searched for by pharaohs and kings and treasure hunters and thrill seekers, and it's probably been the most hunted for item on planet Earth for
These
the
nuts.
past...
Are you talking about a wife that doesn't nag?
No.
I said these nuts.
1,500 years or so. And it is the Ark of the Covenant, which is a...
Why?
These cats are crazy.
Yeah.
If you hear banging once again, it's the cats.
It's kitties.
Yeah, the cats have decided they're podcasting too.
And
Very
they're just ramming all the cords with their heads. Anyhoozle. So, today we're going to talk about the Ark of the Covenant, which is probably real, question mark.
Question mark,
I mean,
question
there's-
mark, asterisk?
No one's sure. It is, in quick terms, it's basically the box that the Ten Commandments from the Old Testament were housed in. And it has been lost for, and again, saying lost, no one has known where it has been for the past at least 900 years.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a little bit more, probably closer to 1,100 years, but at least 9 that no one has had I say no one, mostly no one has any clue where it's at. There are a lot of rumors and a lot of tall talk about people that have found it, or that it's housed in a church, or that it's been so-and-so place for the past 400 years, that it was moved to a cave. There's infinite stories about where it actually is, and none of them can be proven, which is fun. But we're going to get into what it actually is based on the Old Testament and the Torah accounts of when it was built, who built it, why they built it, what it was supposed to be used for, what it looked like, and it's a lot. It is mentioned over 200 times in the Old Testament. It is the most, and it's pretty much given the best description of any item in the Old Testament. Like, they don't mess around when they describe this thing, which makes me lead to believe,
It was real.
yeah,
Yeah.
they built it. And again, I'm not saying it still exists. It may have been during one war or another taken as a bounty of war and disassembled or melted down and made into other things. I mean, there's just no way to know.
I love stories about legendary items. It's always fun.
Well, this is the one that has been hunted for forever.
It even goes into detail about how to craft the end so it curves into
Everything.
Yeah. This is neat.
They really describe the crap out of building this box.
Just imagine you're like on that antique roadshow and you're like, hey, my great grandma used to put bread in this box.
If it really is, she'd be dead.
Yeah, if she touched it, she's gone.
Yeah, you're not.
Well, that's why she's like a deceased grandma.
Yeah, you're not allowed.
Oh, wow, okay.
She definitely didn't get bread into it.
You know what? This just goes to show you what I don't know fuck all about this shit. So let's go.
So, the Ark of the Covenant, also called the Ark of God or the Ark of the Testimony, was supposed to house the Ten Commandments, the staff of Aaron, which was Moses' brother, and then supposedly a bowl of manna, which is what, when the Israelites were in the desert for 40 years, it's what would come down, manna from heaven, if you ever heard that, is what would, I say come down from heaven. Basically, they said it materialized with the dew,
Yeah.
and they would have to take it and pick it and grind it up, and they could make bread out of it.
Right. And the thing about Aaron's rod is that it flowered at the end, showing it was a promise from God. Like it was.
It's another one of those powerful, just like Moses' staff that split the Red Sea.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of imbued with power.
There's just a lot of wizards in this story.
Right?
It's a
Like
lot of
like fucking Lord of the Rings up in
Aaron
here.
does remind me of Gandalf.
it's a lot of powerful artifacts that man can wield. It's really
Yeah.
insane. Like, we think about it now with, like, even when you like watch Constantine and you have the Spear of Destiny, which is the blade that's pierced Jesus' side. Like, there aren't a lot of really cool, badass artifacts laying around or talked about anymore.
Right.
But these are the ones that everybody has hunted for. I mean, there are still people out hunting for it, digging in caves. It's been crazy trying to find it.
And people do believe in it. Hitler believed it was his destiny
absolutely.
to own the Spear of Destiny. Some people say he did get it. He just wasn't able to find the cauldron. But that's past episode. Go listen to that if you want to hear more. We're talking about the Ark.
The Ark of the Covenant held the Ten Commandments that Moses was given on Mount Sinai. They were the rules of God, or from God. And it's weird because the story that most people don't hear, the original Ten Commandments were supposedly written by the finger of God.
From the burning bush, the hand appeared and
Carved them.
Is that what that noise was?
I'm sure it was. If a hand appears and writes stuff on stone tablets, that's probably the sound it made.
Like, huh?
It's
a
probably
weird
like the
hissing
sound of a
noise.
stylus and an engraver, and they go
Like a hissing chicken almost.
And again, if you don't know the Ten Commandments, you can probably Google it. It's pretty easy. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. There's a bunch of them. Probably
which is
10.
funny that they put it in an ark that they worshipped, which is, by definition, an engraven image.
So-
but I digress.
When the original Ten Commandments, when Moses came down off the mountain and he found I can't remember who it was, the Philistines or whoever it was, they were worshiping a golden cow.
Yeah, they were worshiping one of the Babel cows.
Yeah, so
and Aaron was leading the ceremony.
So he smashed the Ten. He broke the Ten
He got
Commandments.
so mad he threw him on the ground, and he's like, "What the fuck are y'all doing? I've only been up there 40 goddamn days."
Like he physically destroyed
Something that God wrote on himself.
yes, and handed to him, and he was like, "Nope," pissed
Huh.
off. So he had to.
Yeah, God wasn't happy with him.
He had to chisel them himself the next time from the Word of God.
And which is funny enough, this is the reason they were cursed to wander the desert for 40 years.
Yeah.
Because,
of him destroying the tablets.
well, that and the fact that they were worshiping a pagan god.
The golden calf.
Oh, interesting.
Movie,
Okay.
The Golden Cow.
Oh,
From
it's also my favorite Minecraft cow I have. Sorry.
Is his name Mooby?
Yeah,
Yeah.
You don't
So-
have a Minecraft cow.
I'm joking. You killed my llama. We'll move on past things.
Well, I didn't know you were standing right there.
But so, and when everybody thinks of the Ten Commandments, they think of like just Hebrew carved into marble. So in the Torah in the Old Testament, technically the Ten Commandments are carved in. So originally I thought it was blue sapphire because the word was sapir, S-A-P-I-R, but that actually translates more closely to lapis
I was
lazuli.
just about to say, I think that's lapis. I don't think it's
It
actually
is.
sapphire because sapphire is a completely different
Yeah, so-
term.
So if you think about like, and again, when you think of the Ten Commandments, you think these old gray like stones, but apparently they were like blue and
They were
marbly
elaborate
and
and beautiful.
yeah, gorgeous.
Oh, that would be pretty.
And that when I was reading about that, I'm like, I bet those things look awesome. Why would you break them? What a dick.
Yeah,
And
it
make
also
him-
explains why they were so fragile that he probably dropped it in shock. You can imagine how heavy they were too. And he's coming down from a mountain trying to keep them safe. He's probably dropped them a couple of times already.
Chips missing.
Yeah, and then he's just like, "Oh, they
Don't look
made
at me.
me
Don't
mad
look
and
at
I
me.
broke it."
Don't look at me.
And
Don't
again,
look at me.
So
Don't
I
look
look
at
at
me.
it like if these were the tablets from God that he handed himself, he probably knew that he flung them down in anger. He probably didn't make them wander for 40 years
Like, these
because
sons
he
of-
tripped.
Yeah, these sons of bitches don't deserve this. That's probably exactly why he. But yeah, it said he got so like outraged. He threw. I can see him throwing them at him like, "You don't deserve the word of God, you whores."
Yeah, it's
That's exactly verbatim, probably what it was translated to
Well,
too.
he was mad. I mean, people died that day.
that's how Moses spoke.
Yeah, he was not nice, which I appreciate that. Aaron was the nice one, the smooth talker, the ones who led them in pagan worship.
That's a homie right there.
That's also Aaron's line of the Jews. You know, they still get shit for that. Like that's
Yeah.
that's like a really bad.
Yeah, I mean they went against
They weren't allowed
the
to carry
word.
the ark of it. They actually made a priestly class called the Levites to carry it because Aaron was no longer worthy of it. Like this was a big deal.
Yeah, they also, I mean, they carried the ark about a half a mile in front of the rest of the
Yeah,
the
2,600
party.
feet.
So it's not exactly half mile, but it's pretty close.
Yeah. 800 meters for all you Europeans.
Ugh. Whose flag's on the moon, assholes?
Yeah, that's right. Y'all saw our Miss World USA with the moon over her head.
So stupid.
So we have Moses, Aaron. They're in Jerusalem. They're in Egypt at some point. Moses, if you know the story, staff, parts of Red Sea, Pharaoh, let my people go, frogs, rain of death,
Yeah.
firstborn of Egypt's sons, blah, blah, blah. All the plagues. He leaves. About a year after leaving Egypt is when they are given the instructions on how to build the ark to house the
Word of God. Yeah.
the word of God and the staff and the manna. But that may have, again, they'd only been wandering for a year, so the manna may have been put in there after. So we have this box, and I did the math real quick, and basically it was the directions on how to build it. It's 2.5 cubits in length, 1.5 cubits in breadth, which is the basically width, and 1.5 cubits high, which is basically 52 inches by 31 inches by 31 inches, a little over 4 feet, 2.5 feet, 2.5 feet. But it's also, so if you have to do the math, cubit is basically 20.5 inches, give or take. Like it's 20 point whatever half inch. So like, it's kind of you think of a 4 foot 3 inch box. I mean, it's really close to what a casket would have been back then. Like, these were small people. This was pretty a good sized box. It's not quite casket size, but it's close.
Yeah.
So if like you're trying to picture it, like, it's not like it's this small little trinket box. It's a big,
I
cumbersome.
was thinking
thing.
like more like like almost a trunk, if anything. Like
I mean, even then, a 4 foot wide trunk's a pretty big trunk.
Yeah.
Like a steamer trunk. Size.
yeah, I was thinking a steamer trunk.
Like a hope chest. Imagine a hope chest that you
Yeah.
have to carry around with you everywhere you go.
Yeah. That's just the theme of your bed. Like
Yeah.
the length of your bed.
That's just a pretty big box. So it was supposed to be made out of this wood that was called
It's acacia wood.
it's acacia.
Yeah.
The word they use is kimmer, I believe, or the Keperat
Yeah.
or whatever. But it's basically acacia, which is interesting because that's what the burning bush was supposedly
I was
made
going
of.
to say,
Yeah.
wasn't that what the burning bush was?
Yeah,
So
it's a holy wood.
yeah.
And funny enough, it's also a holy wood in a lot of pagan religions as
Right.
well. Acacia
Because it's a
is.
pure burning wood.
And it's hard and soft at the same time.
It's because it releases DMT when you smoke it.
Yeah.
It's like the most abundant source of DMT in nature. Like when you burn it,
Well, no wonder Moses thought he saw God.
that's one of the theories is that he was actually breathing in the burning wood and tripping balls.
Or maybe that's why he actually had his mind open to see it.
Yeah, or maybe it's how he got to that realm.
Yeah. Because the other thing, well, when you describe what the ark looks like, I want to bring up something.
Sure. So we have 51 inches by 21 or 31 by 31. It's supposed to be gilded completely inside and out with pure gold, which means they just basically gold plate the whole thing. It's supposed to have a crown molding of gold to put all the way around it. It's supposed to have 4 like rings of gold. So imagine like Shah rings on each corner
Yeah.
that you can put a long stick through.
Which is acacia wood as well.
Yeah,
Plated in gold.
So you can carry it because you're not supposed to touch this thing.
Ever touch it.
No bare hands, no touching it, no nothing. You can touch the staves that are carrying it, but even then, it's basically holy men are allowed to carry it.
And they have to be purified, sanctified, go through rituals, burnt offerings, the whole 9 yards.
to touch the
Yeah.
sticks that's touching the ark. That's
Oh.
That's why
shit.
Aaron was told he could never even look at it.
Yeah.
Because he did that shit with the pagan idols.
So, and again, once the staves, the rods that you're supposed to carry are in, the rule was they're never to be removed. They're supposed to be left in here forever. So once they're in, they're in. So we have this big, burdensome, and again, gold is pretty heavy. So when you start covering things in gold,
Yeah.
it gets even heavier.
I was about to say, you have a wood box plated in gold. What you're just basically carrying
With
is
gold.
mass.
Oh, we haven't
With-
even gotten to the top of it, the lid.
Yeah. It's covered in gold with, lapis lazuli, stone
Yeah.
tablets in there. So it's probably not the lightest thing in the world to
Yeah.
be carrying around the middle of the freaking desert.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to think that's where they're at. They're in the desert. It's probably miserable. And you got a box that has to stay a half mile ahead of everybody. It's not even you're not even allowed to travel with the rest of the Israelites. And when
Because
you-
it's kind of a curse thing.
Yeah.
And the thing about this box is, like, there are tons of miracles and curses that happen around it. Like, they came up to, I think they're Jordan River. And the priest, so Moses was like, God says, keep going.
Yep,
So they
straight
walk into the
across.
water and it just dries up.
Yep.
It didn't part like the Red Sea. It
No,
just dried.
There's no more river.
Yeah. So they took stones and those stones are still there where the priest set
There's
foot
like
into
12,
the river door.
I
Yeah.
think, 12 steps.
It's like a holy
Right.
like,
Because there's 12 tribes,
I was
12
gonna say,
steps,
it's
12
like a holy
apostles.
divot box, if anything. Like,
That's exactly what I thought. And, we're going to get to it. Just keep in mind what you just said.
okay, I'm here for this.
So, the lid, the capare, which is actually called the mercy seat, is there's supposed to be 2 golden cherubim with outstretched wings.
And we know what cherubim means.
Oh God. Okay.
They have outstretched wings that the tips are supposed to be. This is where the definition gets weird. It's either touching or very, very, very close to touching.
Well, and we know what cherubim do at the throne of God.
Right, they just
They
straight-
shield with their wings.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, the cherubim are the ones who shield God and stand right beside him. There's 4 of them. And they're the ones who inspire men and basically, through Jesus, intervene on our behalf.
Gotcha.
So, and this mercy seat, which is what the lid is called, where the cherubim are, is where it's God's microphone on earth. It's where he speaks
Right.
to Moses through either smoke or fire
Yeah.
from the top of this thing.
And they used to consult it all the time before war. Like, they literally talked to it.
But it was literally God's voice on earth that they're carrying in.
And here's the thing.
Full.
It kind of makes sense why it was so like
Yeah.
like.
And when it was
encased
not
and
in
whatever?
use, it was under a very special veil that they built. Is it like you had to keep it closed, which reminded me of like you've got a direct line to God. He doesn't want to always have it open,
Right.
open it when you need him. But he would, speak to Moses or and the priests, the people who,
Well, it was
who
like
were allowed
it was
to hear
almost like it's his cell phone to the world.
Yeah, and it was
like,
interesting that it was the cherubim on the lid because we know what they do, and it's the mercy seat. So we know that there's 4 angels that carry the throne of God. Well, they're like they're not cherubim. There's 4
Yeah.
powers. There's light, mercy, air, fire, and water. So this is the one mercy has, and each of them have a different side of the throne. So it's interesting that
And,
It
e-
gets mentioned.
it's the mercy seat.
Yeah.
and even when they camp, when they at night when they go to camp, the Ark of the Covenant is kept in a separate tent with its own room within that
Yeah,
tent called
which-
the tabernacle.
Tabernacle until they could build it.
Until Solomon can build the actual.
Yeah, because they
temple.
remember Moses was given the plans that Solomon eventually built. That was their whole mission, was to get where they could build this temple. And also, I wanted to going back to the 4 people, the mercy, light,
Yeah.
air, and or water and fire. They're so big that it would take 700 years just to get from the lobe of the ear to the shoulder of one of these beings. 700 years. That's how big they are. It reminds me of the 4 horsemen in space.
I was gonna say, it
That
reminds
you
me
see
of,
the huge
I
nebula.
was gonna say it's almost an astronomical
It's
size.
like universes.
Yeah.
Like they're
well-
enormous.
And we're comparing it to things like, again, we base size based off of us, and we base distance off
Right. What we can imagine.
of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for us, a light year is impossible. I mean, it just is.
Yeah.
But if you're
that big, that's
Or
A
if
half
you're
step.
if you're a being that can travel faster than that,
Mhm.
it's like us walking to the mailbox. Like
yeah.
it's just a perspective thing. Like we have trouble grasping how minuscule we are and how big everything is, but that's based on our own size.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that gold was picked because all throughout different religions and even the belief in the Anunnaki, it's gold. Everybody's after gold. Because gold, think about like when you plug these cords, we specifically wanted gold.
Yeah, it's a really
better
good
conduit.
It's a good,
it's an
it's
electrical
good sound
yep.
conductor.
Yeah. Well, and in general, it
Conductor.
just I was going to say yeah.
It's one of the best conductors.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it just is.
Yeah.
So my thing is like, I wonder, did they have to? And it doesn't mention this. I don't think I can't find it. Did they already have gold items they had to melt down, or did they have
Right,
to
like,
mine
did they
the
have
gold?
to actively seek out these like gold items that they could either melt down, or
Yeah,
did they have to like?
it took them a while to build.
Yeah, if they
the
didn't
art.
have the gold, they had to go find it.
They had to go
Yeah.
raid people. That's why at a lot of wars they would take their gold idols, melt them down, and use this. And they had to be pure. It couldn't be any impurities. in
Yeah,
it.
it was
Right.
it was pure gold.
Can
That's
you
the-
imagine being tasked with having to deal with this like huge, just existing
Yeah.
thing that you have to like protect because it's the one of the most holy items in the universe,
Well,
and you have to like Not
Yeah.
only can you not fuck it up, but you also have to find things that to me, this is like one of those tasks where you're like, it's not even just impossible, but more
Like
than just
in
impossible.
an RPG, you spend pretty much the entire game trying to get gold
like,
for
this
your.
is like the main quest line, and
Yeah.
the end of the quest is still not the end of it.
My thing is if you had this item and God spoke to you through it, you would probably fall to your knees and do whatever you had to do for the rest
Well, that's
of
what
your
I'm
life.
saying.
If he is speaking to you,
There would be no hesitation.
Well, that's
No.
what I'm saying. Like, it's like such a scary idea, though, because at the same time, you're tasked with such this insurmountable idea about you're holding the voice of God, and now you have to, like, not only can you not just be like, well, here's some sand and sticks, let me just house it. I have to go find everything on earth that is pretty much the purest thing that could possibly hold it.
But if you were given those, I mean, if you were there and you got those directions from God,
You would do it. No, I'm saying
no hesitation.
yeah.
You would kill men, women, children to get whatever
Yeah.
you needed to do because you were
True.
chosen to do it.
And what was interesting is, there was like, I probably just one reference, and I don't remember which book it was, but when God would speak to Moses through the cherubim wings, like this weird mist and cloud would rise up, and when they first built the Temple of Solomon, and he put it in its room, the entire temple was filled with this mist,
The voice of God on
this
earth.
cloud.
this is like the weirdest Lord of the Rings anthology story that and the thing is, like, I really don't know a lot about the Ark of the Covenant.
This is why it's the most hunted for
I was
artifact
about
in
to say,
history.
but it's one of those things where you listen to it and you're like, if this wasn't like based on a Christian mythos as it is, this would be a badass book to read in general.
Well, they would also carry it into battle, and so like the walls of Jericho that we hear about, they took it with them. There were 12 priests blowing ram's horns.
So it wasn't even that. What they did was every day for 6 days, they walked around the city with the ark.
With the priests
They-
blowing the ram's horns.
No
in front of them.
fighting, no nothing. They just walked
Just
around
walked
the city.
around it 6 times.
On the 7th day, the priests blew their horns, the walls fell. The city collapsed.
So you hear people saying, well, if the whole army's walking around, it would destabilize. It wasn't the whole army. It was the priests in the ark.
And that's it.
That's it.
You got to remember,
even then, if you have an army walking around a circle of a building, your fucking building shouldn't fall over 6 times
Yeah.
walking around. That doesn't make
6
any fucking
days.
6 days of it just walking around
Yeah.
and then do shit. You have people living in it. What the hell are
Walked
you
around
talking
the city,
about?
and then the walls just fell. And the people of Jericho were like, you know what? You're good. What you need? And they would take it into other battles, and like crazy stuff would happen.
I mean, they took it with them because it was supposed to be.
Such a powerful.
Well, and he was like
object.
the general. God would tell them through it exactly what to do. So
this
it
is-
was the voice speaking through the ark to Moses that said, "Just take the shit around, and on 7th day I'm gonna do some. Watch this.
Watch this. Hey,
Watch
hold my
this.
beer.
And this is after, I think even this is after Moses. This is Joshua who led the Battle
Yeah.
of Jericho. So you have to remember, like, and again, we're getting the biblical lineage. They're going to build what is later called Solomon's Temple. Well, Solomon is David's son.
Be careful banging the table.
Oh, sorry.
You can hear it.
So we're dealing with generational. Again, they wanted
Yeah.
the desert for 40 years before they even found the promised land, much less built anything there.
And Josh was the one who said one day people aren't even going to remember the ark. It's not going to be talked about. It's not going to be remembered. It's not going to be consulted. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, that'll never happen," but it did.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you had that kind of power and you saw it, you wouldn't believe that people would just ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
They'd forget.
Yeah,
There's no way.
like literally, God is speaking through these
Yeah.
angel wings, and mist is going, and miracles and
We can
curses are
hear
happening.
his voice
Yeah,
of the Almighty. No one ever forgets this. But again, time.
yeah.
We're humans.
Like people who weren't supposed to, if they looked at it and saw it, would just drop dead.
Yep.
Dead.
Happened to somebody's wife.
And then a whole later on, when they got it back and were sanctifying it, the people from the town they were beside looked at it. The entire
Gone.
gone. They were carrying it. Somebody stumbled and a priest reached out to steady it with his hand. Dead. He touched it. There's a reason, like, these stories, I mean, it could be exaggerated, but this is one thing in the Bible that I feel wasn't exaggerated.
Right.
Because you can corroborate this in the history of other, like the Philistines.
It makes sense
It corroborates.
Yeah.
in the stories.
Corroborates.
Even if it's just a fable, there's more to it than this because all the places it was said to have been. I mean, we know
Yeah.
there were places. We know these things happened. Even the battles they lost when they didn't consult it or they
Yeah.
housed it improperly, they lost, like, flat out.
So it was. Can we talk about the Philistines when they took it? So they had this war and they didn't consult it, but they took it into battle. They're like, you know what? They had just lost horribly. So the priests were like, we're going to take it in. It was just 2 of them. Remember, 4 were supposed to carry it. 2 of them took it in. They had the worst defeat they've ever had. Lost 30,000 men. Philistines were like, Moha, we got your fucking ark. You know, meh. Well, they took it and they went to 4 towns. Of course, I'll never remember the name of them. Each of these 4 towns, people developed tumors, hemorrhoids, rats, the bubonic plague, boils. Just the most awful thing. They ended up bringing it back, and we're like, we're sorry.
Yeah, can we have it back?
Not only did they bring it, and I think it was after 7 months. It was a short amount of time. It went through 4 cities. They're like, fuck this ark. They took it back with gifts of golden rats and hemorrhoids, like buttholes. And supposedly the Israelites kept that golden chest of those things just to remind, it became part of their sacred objects.
Right.
But yeah, they brought that shit back and was like, we're sorry.
What's the return policy on this? We like to get a receipt.
And because they came back with gifts, and they were the victors. They had crushed them.
Right.
And they came back and were like, you know what? Not only are we going to give you this back, we're going to give you a lot of wealth, and here's some food.
Yeah.
You need some
Don't
cows.
come back. Thanks. Have a great day.
Please don't. Please take this and go. Take it and go. I think that's hilarious. Because what a major victory. Because not only did they defeat them, they took their power source.
Right.
And they was like, yeah.
We don't want this.
And you know what it kind of reminds me of? Like, talking about the boils and stuff.
Radiation
Radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
The hair was falling out. The teeth. I'm like, what the fuck did they... Which is interesting because you're thinking about, now you're really thinking about what's in there.
Right.
Because the lid was never lifted after they put it.
Not only that, but you have to think, like, even... So if this is a real object and there's certain ways to carry it and certain ways to house it or bad things happen, the Philistines wouldn't have known the proper methods.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have housed it in the tabernacle because they wouldn't have known they needed one.
Exactly. They wouldn't have put it under the veil.
They wouldn't have had priests that were very anointed and had done the burnt offerings to carry it by the staves because they didn't know.
Yeah.
They probably had soldiers carrying it because it was a
big ass box.
It was a war trophy.
Yeah.
It was a golden war trophy.
And it was like one of the biggest known sources of power, like in that known world at the time. Everybody knew this was what the Israelites did.
Yeah, they knew it was powerful, but they wouldn't have known the proper
way to
methods.
handle it.
Yeah.
Because when it talks about the veil, it sounds like a heavy veil that really...
Lead.
Exactly,
Yeah.
it does.
Lead sheet.
Like that,
Yeah.
like it's actually a lined radiation box, and nobody
Exactly.
they don't know that because hey, nobody knew what radiation
And all these
was.
people are getting sick, and it makes sense the rats are like running rampant trying to get away from it because it's killing everything. It's
kind of like that.
It's
That's kinda
wild.
fun, yeah.
When they brought it back, there was a lot of like they had to do a lot of burnt offerings and sanctifying it. You had to sanctify a whole new priest class because those 2 motherfuckers went in prison, went into war and died.
But even the Philistines, like they had to consult their diviners to figure out what was
Yeah,
making them
and they
sick,
were
they're
like, return it.
give it back.
So when you said Dybbuk box, that's what it reminded me of. Like it literally seems like just a huge ass Dybbuk box.
Yeah.
So we have the description, we have the powerful of it, we have the fact that if you have it and you don't do the right things with it, you will get either gravely ill or die.
This is like the IKEA manual you really need to follow.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
again, it's God's word on earth.
Right.
It's the voice of the Almighty housed in a box on earth.
Right.
Probably do what it says. Probably ignore whatever you feel like doing with it.
Mm-hmm. That house, like, well, when the commandments were rewritten, Moses went back up the mountain and wrote them by hand, but God still was there guiding his hand. So,
which again sounds like a punishment by making him physically do it.
Yeah. While you're can you imagine something that powerful holding your hand?
No.
I bet he came out and his hand was gnarled, and because God like held his hand.
That side of it sounds like it was a punishment.
Right.
Like, because again, carving 10 Commandments into lapis lazuli would have been very difficult because it's a pretty flaky rock.
It is. You have to be very careful.
Just throwing that out there, and like we don't know, he may have had to do it 20 times to get
it right. Yeah.
And that may have been part of his
and on
punishment
top
for
of
breaking
it,
them.
yeah, he's being punished. Plus, God told him, "You're never gonna see. You're not gonna
never
be
see
able."
the promised land.
Yeah. So he got in a lot of trouble for this, and because he got so mad and he broke the original.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you flung it. No one. You saw God's like wavering, gnarled witch finger pop out, and you still threw it. I would have loved to have seen like. Did it just appear? Was there a hand that showed up? How big was it?
I doubt he saw it.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think you're allowed to look upon if there is God. I don't think you're allowed to look upon His face with human
You're right.
eyes. Like,
I think there is, maybe not in the way the Christianity presents him, but I think there's higher beings.
so I have what I believe in my head,
Mm-hmm.
but I do believe that if there is a divine creator like this,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think we could comprehend
I think it
what
would burn
it
our
is.
eyes.
Yeah,
Right.
drive us
We would
mad.
go crazy. It's like Cthulhu. We wouldn't know.
Yeah,
well, I
well-
mean, he does it on purpose because he's mean spirited. But we just wouldn't know what we're looking at. It literally would. There's the two prophets taken to heaven, and even that little bit they saw,
Yeah, it's too much.
it's too much. Well, one of them stayed there and became the chronicler, but
Enoch
yeah,
walked with God.
became Metatron.
Never actually died.
No,
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, biblically, never had an actual death like the rest of them.
Yeah.
It was just, here's Enoch, here's his story, and then Enoch walked with God. You're like,
Yep.
huh, interesting.
Yep.
He just took him straight
a
up. Huh? I
flaming chariot came down and just
don't know about quick.
True.
he goes up. Imagine
He was
living a
like
life that impressed a God being so much that they're like, I want that human because all of you are ridiculous.
He's
Yeah.
the only one.
Yeah. I was like, that was like a really like hardworking career change he just took. When they talk about like, what is it
Yeah.
like her like upward mobility in a job?
Yeah.
That was what
there was
happened.
no glass ceiling for him.
Yeah, there was no glass ceiling.
So we have generations of Israelites wandering through the desert, eventually getting to Jerusalem. And this is before Jerusalem is what it is now. You have to think like thousands of years ago, even before it was this huge center of basically 3 worldwide religions, because it really is the center of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It was just a desert outpost, really.
Mm-hmm.
They found the flat rock on top of Mount. It wasn't Mount Sinai.
Kenai.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce it.
and that's where
K-A-N-I-A. Kenai.
that's where they're supposed to build the church, the mount, the temple.
Yeah, and we know what the mount means. It means the voice, the high place.
So they build this temple. This is the first temple of Solomon. They build it around this giant flat rock on top of this mountain. They house the ark inside of a room on this flat rock. Eventually, there are wars, because there's always wars. Islam moves in, take the mount down, or they destroy King Solomon's temple, basically.
You'll know it's Babylon. It's called Babylon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Babylonians, as it were,
The ancient enemy of the Jews.
destroy the temple. Islam eventually builds a Temple of the Mount, which is the big gold dome in Israel. And the only thing that still is permissible for ancient Jews, or the Jews now, even today, is the Western Wall. It's the only place on this whole Temple Mount that they're allowed to worship, basically, because the rest of it it's just a different religion. At some point during the Babylonian push, one of two things happens. Either the king moves the ark and hides it, or it's taken by the Babylonians. There are
And there's writings
so
for both.
so with the Babylonians, when they took the temple, they made detailed lists of everything they took out of the temple, the gold wise, because it's where they stored all their. Back in the day, it's where everything that was worth money was stored. We have complete lists of everything they took, but that don't mention the ark at all.
Yeah, they just say the high relics but it's not named specifically.
Yeah, it's just not.
But there was a group of people dedicated to keeping it safe, so they're thinking that they absconded with it. And there's a book called Second Maccabees, and Maccabees isn't in your Bible you're going to find right now.
Yep.
And it says that it was taken to a closed cave in the Dead Sea,
In the Dead Sea. Yep.
which, by the way, and you'll get into this later, because remember, folks, this is going to be a 2-part
Yeah,
series.
the next one we're going to get into where it may have gone
Yeah.
and the proof thereof of each place.
Yeah, but that's where we found the Dead Sea Scrolls and what they think is a transcript, like a piece of, but it's like a piece of a copy of the original, but they found something there.
And I tend to believe they moved it.
Yeah.
I do believe that the Solomon, King David, their lineage understood, and they had the rules for housing and moving this thing. They understood what it was and what
Right.
its power was. So I do believe that there are, and I don't know if you want to call
And
it
there is that lost tribe.
a sect or a group or whatever
Yeah.
of people that are dedicated to protecting it, and they probably
Right.
move it around every so
These are
often.
probably the same people who, when Mary was pregnant, because she became the new covenant. She became what the Ark of Covenant represented because she had God inside of her.
Right.
And they came, and I think these are the ones who took the chalice and the spear. I think it's the same group of people.
It may well be. I do believe that. I think they keep the Ark of the Covenant hidden, not because they're worried it'll fall in the wrong hands, but I think basically any living human that wants it is the wrong hands.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel about it. Like,
Right.
if this thing is real, and it's the voice of God on earth, we don't deserve to have it. The end. That's where it ends for me.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to get on a treasure hunt to go find it because I love treasure hunts. I don't want it.
Yeah, I don't want to find it. This is one that I'm like, somebody will find it. I'm interested.
So my thing is, I would love.
I don't want to see it.
I would love to find it, but I don't know what to do with it once
Well,
you do.
and
Yeah.
it's like one of
Well,
those
I
things
don't
where-
feel I'm nowhere near worthy of this thing.
That's a great. That's what
I
I
don't.
was gonna say.
Yeah, I don't own it.
Yeah.
I don't want it.
Yeah, I was like that. I think that in my opinion, the people who are searching for it are generally searching for it for glory,
Yeah.
or for something that isn't, for more of a pure selfish reason.
Yeah,
The
to misuse it.
Right. The purpose of its existence to me, or when it was created, was for it to be a word of God to these people that were appointed to represent what God wanted to be heard on earth.
Yeah, it was. They were there to listen to His word so that He
Right.
could teach.
He could teach, exactly. And if you have something so powerful that you walk around a city for 6 days straight and it just drops a city, imagine,
Yeah, and that's like one of the least of the miracles.
imagine-
And it's not even 6 days straight. Again, they made a round around each day, just one circle around
yeah.
it.
Yep.
They didn't just nonstop march. They were like, one,
One.
2, 3. Nice walls, dick.
Yeah.
7.
But I think the people like us, I think part of it is that we would not feel like we were worthy of it, and we would want to protect it, but we don't have a selfish reason why we would want it. We understand that the impact of what it is supposed to do is more for
Yeah.
a religious purpose, and the people who do want it don't want it for that reason.
I want the knowledge of it. That's gonna be if I. That would be that is my
Yeah,
downfall.
we
I
have-
want the knowledge of it. Like the second I die, I know my soul's gonna be like, yeah, where's the library? Like I got questions.
So
I
don't
want them answered.
I don't even want the knowledge that it holds. I want knowledge of I was able to find it. I know where it's at, and it can stay there.
You just live there.
Like I like the hunt. The best part of it for me is the hunt for it.
It's not it's about the journey more
Yeah,
than the
I
destination.
don't want the thing itself because that is too much power for any human being. But I want to know that I was able to follow the clues and track it down, and I know where it's at. I set my eyes upon it, and then I turned around and walked away because I can't deal with this thing. Like that would be awesome for me.
Yeah.
Like finding the Spear of Destiny would be super cool, and I feel like I could have that and like not go crazy. I can't have the Ark.
Well, one of the Spear of Destiny is also a Celtic relic as well, so it wasn't ever meant to be something like. I think when you rate it, yes, the spear is like down here, where the ark is like way up here. But
The
like,
Ark is number one.
yeah,
Not
absolutely.
close.
Hands down. Like that's the voice of a divine being.
Yeah,
That and his seat, one of his seats of power.
So there's a story, and this is kind of where we'll end, but this is my favorite part. 1909, 1911, there's a British, we'll say archaeologist for whatever. He's a treasure seeker guy. His name is Parker. He's pretty sure he's figured out where the Ark is. He goes to Jerusalem with a group of people. They start digging from the slope of the mountain, trying to dig underneath the temple to get in there because there's a cavern underneath the flat rock where all this is supposed to be housed. He starts digging, realizes it's too much work to dig underneath, even with he's got 2 crews of guys working 24 hours a day, 12-hour shifts, digging, can't get to it. Goes to the, I guess what you'd call at this point the mayor of the Ottoman Empire, which is where this is, gets loose permission, bribes this guy, dresses in Islamic garb, goes into the temple, starts digging from inside the temple at night, digging straight down under the rock. As luck would have it, at some middle of the night, some weary parishioner comes in to pray, sees him, raises holy hell because he's digging in the temple.
Literally, holy hell.
Yeah.
The city goes in an uproar because they're very Muslim, and he is literally digging in the one place you're not supposed to do anything other than pray.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, the flat rock is where they say in the Muslim religion, it's where Muhammad was given the word of God. So probably don't dig there. Probably don't chip away at the rock. He's trying to get to this treasure. Blah blah blah. City goes in an uproar. Him and his team get on a boat and leave, haul ass, because he's going to be murdered. Stories start circulating that he has found the Ark of the Covenant, the Sword of Muhammad, and the Staff of Aaron.
Oh.
He found none of these things, but that's the story. Is he took them all and
Yeah.
ran.
Well,
This Englishman took a bunch of their holy relics and
Yeah.
ran off with them, which is really part of the reason it's still so hard to do archaeological digs in Jerusalem.
Because
Is
their
because of
mind
this
is that
asshole.
people take their stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting. So a lot of people have tied, like, if we think this is where the ark ended up being taken, and this is where Muhammad was given the word of God, it kind of, you're like, was he given the tablets? Was he given the ark?
No,
Did
yeah.
they build on top of where, like, same flat space? So it's just interesting to think about it.
Well, it kind of connects. Like,
Well, I mean, you have to think Islam, Judaism, and Christianity.
they're
are all-
very similar.
They're all Abrahamic religions.
Right.
They're just a slight little split.
Right.
with
and
a
then-
little bit of a different interpretation of what's going on.
Yeah, people have
It's like
taken
liberals and conservatives in government.
Yeah.
Like, we just kind of believe different things on how to do something.
I don't even think it's that far of a split. It's like, I don't know, anarcho-capitalists and libertarians. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're splitting hairs to say you're the same damn thing. Just say
Right.
you're the thing. Like, it's just crazy.
And we're
But-
better than you because we, blah, blah, blah.
But yeah, next week we will get into the Knights Templar and whether they have it. We'll get into a church in Ethiopia and the random Jews in the middle of Africa.
Yeah.
And
The
whether or not,
lost tribe we were talking about.
even if they may not even be the lost tribe, like there's a weird lineage with them.
Oh, yeah. And this was discovered on like 60 Minutes or
Yeah.
so. This guy was like, no, we're actually Jewish. They're like, you're African. You can't be.
They genetically tested them, and
no,
they're very Jewish.
genetically very Jewish.
Oh shit!
So the Hasidic Jews are like, oh, we don't know what to do with this.
Well, that and
Because
even
remember, the thing was like, you're better than the dark people.
right.
well, it's not even that. It's you have to think like even with Ethiopia, the story with them is Queen Sheba traveled to Jerusalem, fell in love with the king, got pregnant, came back to Ethiopia, had a child.
Yeah.
The child was born, grew up there, went back to Jerusalem to meet his father, hung out there for a while.
Yeah.
His father's like, "Oh, you have to stay here so we can teach you," and the kid's like, "Nah, I'm gonna go home." Goes back to Ethiopia, supposedly takes a bunch of treasures with him, and then there's this weird little church in Ethiopia that supposedly has
Yeah.
the Ark of the Covenant.
Like he kind of, some theories are that he saved it. He was the one entrusted with because this was at the time when they're being attacked and things are just going really horribly awry, and they're like, you're a Jew, you take it, protect it.
Then we have
And Sheba was a good friend of David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the Poor Knights of Christ or the Knights Templar that decide that they're gonna go protect pilgrims on the way to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Go to the temple, don't protect anybody, and just start digging, find something, and then leave and are super rich from there on out. So we don't know what they found.
Sounds like it is going to be quite the journey.
There's 100
Yeah.
different places it could be, and none of them are probably
And there's
right.
a million reasons why, even if it's found, no religion in the world would want people to have access to the voice of God.
No, it would be probably stuck in the Vatican and
Governments,
the catacombs. And
like, think of
Right.
our government. You couldn't possibly allow something like that to come out.
so, how would you be able to listen to Biden if you could just go ask God?
right.
I don't need the word of
Yeah.
some dude.
I
I
don't
don't
need the
need
word of
Congress
man.
because
I-
God was just on TV saying, do
I
it.
have the actual word of the Lord Almighty.
Well, like Journey says, don't stop believing.
Well, again, this is in the, I don't know if you want to call it Christian mythos or mythology or whatever. This is the one item that I'm like, that thing's probably real somewhere. And again, even if it wasn't the voice
Well-
of God, there's probably this box somewhere.
It just seems
It's
so.
something.
Well,
If it wasn't burned or melted down, again, the Babylonians may have taken it and melted it down
Yeah,
and turned it into effigies of their gods.
Yeah.
I
which
mean,
is what they
usually
probably
did.
took that golden cow they were worshiping when Moses came down and put a lot of that onto this.
yeah.
'Cause it was
well,
a-
and I mean, the thing is, the story is from what it sounds like, is that it's a very there's so much consistency with it. At some point, it existed, and the fact that nobody really knows what happened to it, it leads to a lot of questions about, is there some great organization that works secretively to protect it, or is it something that now is like it's stuck in the wall of a Walmart?
Because think of what the word covenant means anyway. Like when you think about the word covenant,
it's rules.
It's a foundation,
right?
So if you talk about like the covenant founded like Harvard College, a covenant founded it. Well, they sponsored it, made all the rules for it, and they have to stay within the covenant. Like a lot of HOAs are covenants.
Yeah.
But this covenant was the promises that God made his people in exchange for what they would do for him. It was an agreement. It was a covenant. I mean, not that, if you're human, you don't have much choice but to just be like, oh, you're going to let us live. That's great. We accept.
Right. And again, the last, I guess you would say, credible public knowledge of the Ark being around is like 900 CE.
Right.
So it's been a little over 1,300 years since anyone's actually been able to.
Because it was 587 BC when the Babylonians destroyed the temple.
I mean, it's been about 1,400 years since any credible sightings. And again,
CE, it would
common area.
It would have been 1,100 years ago. 1,122.
Yeah, I'm saying it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
So
we've seen that's a whole Civ game right there.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the last credible, probably somebody saw it or moved it time it was seen. And again, it may not be that recent.
Mm-hmm.
It may be, and again, after the Babylonians, everything is, this king was in charge of moving it and protecting it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the only story you hear, though. It's not like they have an actual account of it going into battle or being led anywhere. It's just, he moved it from here to here.
Yeah.
That's it.
You want to know an interesting... I think King Hezekiah was the last one. King. But so when the Babylonians took the ark, if it was taken, there was the queen was given birth that day, and she named her son Ichabod, which means the spirit has left. And I just thought Ichabod. I'm like, it's a biblical
thing.
Because I'd always heard that Ichabod was a biblical name, and it was funny that he had picked that for Ichabod Crane.
Mm-hmm.
So it really puts you in perspective, like how miserable this guy was.
She died giving birth to Ichabod too.
Yeah, she died. She named him and died. Boom. Like, it's just a curse.
Yeah.
Like on the way out, the ark was like, you know what?
Again, I think if you mishandle it, it's real bad.
Yeah, because they weren't talking to it anymore. Like they used to consult it all the time, and they weren't talking to it.
Yeah.
You get you get the wrath of God.
Mm-hmm. Well.
In one nice little package that is portable, apparently.
That's
the first cell phone.
Yeah. I was going to say it's the first. That's literally what the episode's going to be called. Is like humanity's first cell phone, then Ark of the Covenant.
What it really feels like is just a nuclear reactor in a box.
Cell phone provider.
Just leaking.
Yeah.
Like if you don't keep the lid on it the right way, you're probably gonna lose your hair, teeth, and die.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Let's keep this guy wrapped up.
Well, a lot of people think that's similar to like the tombs in Egypt, like the curses, quote unquote.
No oxygen.
Right.
It's the canary in the mine. Like, oh, you can't breathe? Probably don't go down there.
Stale
That's not
air.
a curse. You'll just die.
You need to aerate it a little bit before you go back down.
Right. They open these things up. They have that stale, like literally dead air, and they go into it and die.
We have to also imagine they have basically serfs that they're sending in there. Who they can't say no. Like they're basically Middle Eastern slaves that they have digging these damn pits, and they're like, go in there and see what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm telling y'all, this is how I would have died back in the day. Because I'd be like, I want to go in first. I gotta know.
Right.
I have to know, and I'd go in there and die. I really would. Well, like the guy who died from the mosquitoes looking at the pyramids in Mexico. That'd be me.
Yeah, that's why you send the canary in first. The canary in the coal mine. If there's oxygen, he'll be fine. He'll
I wouldn't want to kill the bird though. I'd be like, don't kill the fucking bird.
I'm fine killing the bird.
I'm fine killing the people. Send Tom. He's useless anyway.
Well, good first episode, guys. Back in the new year. Good to be back. I know we were a little delayed, but some of us got COVID.
Hi.
I'm gonna say it's COVID. I don't know what you got.
I really think it was just the flu.
You got somebody got the bubonic plague.
We live in an age where it's like just the flu,
yeah,
which kills people every day.
Yeah, the flu's always killed everybody though, but typically immunocompromised and elderly, not like healthy-ish
people.
30-year-olds.
Yeah.
Typically don't die of the flu.
But yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff planned this year. We
We
hope
do.
that you stay with us and enjoy it. But I hope you all had a great holiday. Welcome back. And yeah, we got some spooky stuff coming up. Not an OnlyFans.
Mhm.
So
No.
And I'll send you into the mine first when
Yeah,
we find something.
that's a
so-
real homie right there.
Yeah.
We're about to National Treasures, America's Book of Secrets, this damn Ark of the Covenant. It's under the
Yeah.
president's desk somewhere.
That's
Yeah.
actually the desk.
It's
that
probably
he
in
just-
Biden's house with those documents.
That's why all the presidents actually age so quickly, is because they're just sitting on the Ark of the
Oh my
Covenant.
god, that would make so much freaking sense.
Or stress.
Probably stress.
I'm gonna go with art
stress. I'm going to go with being a president.
And
is
hey,
a job I
leave-
wanna
on my
do.
bingo card.
Hey, leave Biden alone, okay? Since he wrote he's lost a lot of things, like the original copy of the Constitution.
He threw the tablets with Moses.
Yeah, he's been around a while.
He's the one who tripped Moses off that mountain. No, it was the cow
You had to
that
for-
fell down the mountain.
You and that fucking cow. You will never get past this episode of the fucking cow.
You had to forge the actual tools that Moses needed. Like, here's your hammer, here's your chisel. Gosh.
Man,
Listen, there's a couple people at work who listen to the podcast, and they the two actually came by the office to tell me how it's possible that the cow could have taken that guy out. So,
you know, I'm glad that that's what we got to at the end.
and then
of
he
that
called me
episode.
crazy for believing in aliens, but whatever. I'll take the cow.
Is this where we draw the line? Aliens?
And hello, Curtis.
I was about to say, like, just go listen to that episode. Hey, we've had a lot of episodes.
Yeah,
We have.
just listen to them all. You'll eventually happen upon it.
Yeah, and just be cognizant that the first few episodes at the very beginning of this podcast were like not great, and just kind of live with that.
Mhm.
It
Sound
happens.
quality was Becky's
Yeah.
fault.
Was it?
Yeah. Okay, bye.
It wasn't you having.
I
you
wasn't
weren't-
here.
Yeah, you weren't working that
Bye.
laptop. Didn't realize you had to put it on USB
Love you.
audio.
Bye.
Secrets